Yeah, well, that's a very interesting thing about the Avatar movie, is that it had that dimension, which I've been writing about for bloody a decade or more now, about the fact that what we call the Illuminati bloodlines are hybrids. They are human reptilian hybrids that were specifically bred by these reptilians. And they're not just in the moon, but it's a major part of their control system, I'm absolutely convinced of. They bred particular bloodlines that had a much more powerful genetic connection to them. Now again, I'm talking genetic connection, what we call genetics. That's play-out holographic. That's what genetics is in our perception. We see genetics. What the genetics really is a computer program. It is an information construct within the waveform metaphysical level. What I call in the book the metaphysical universe. That's what I describe the waveform construct, information construct as the metaphysical universe, as opposed to the play-out holographic universe. And so, because there is this genetic connection, what it actually is here is a vibrational information connection, which means that these particular bloodlines, which we call the Illuminati bloodlines, the interbreeding bloodlines at the top of the banking system, the political system, and the military, and all the rest of it, the media ownership, this vibrational compatibility means that these reptilian entities who operate just outside of human sight, or at least can project themselves in a way that we can't decode them, they can possess the mental and emotional faculties of these, and therefore behavior and actions of these hybrid bloodlines in a way that is much less powerful within the general population. And so when we look at the Rothschilds, when we look at the Kissingers, the Rockefellers, and all these other major global business, banking, political families, we are actually looking at the middlemen and women vibrationally between the reptilians outside of human sight and the human society. And when you take this analogy, you know when a scientist wants to work with something which is dangerous to work with, what he'll do is, you see them from time to time, they have a big tank, the dangerous materials in the tank. Scientists is on the outside of the tank, think vibrational field, this reality, their reality, overwhelmingly. They can come in and out, but they can't stay here for that long. That seems to be a problem. And what the scientists do in the laboratory is they put these big gloves on, so that although they're outside of this reality, they can work in it. These Illuminati bloodlines are in effect those gloves. They are the vehicle that allow them to infiltrate human society within our frequency range of perception, from their frequency range of perception. And like I say, they can come into this reality. I'm sure there are some that are within our reality, can stay here, quite possibly. But the major ones, the major controlling force, can come in, but it can't stay for that long. And I think there's a lot of symbolism in this with the stories of vampires and Dracula, who they can't come out. When the sun comes out, they have to disappear and all the rest of it, and stay out of the sunlight. There's a lot of symbolism in there of that, because the whole foundation of vampires, the vampire stories, comes from these reptilian entities. I would suggest for this reason. They can come into our reality, which is vibrationally not totally compatible with them. Therefore, they can't stay too long before they get dismantled vibrationally and badly affected. But one way they can stay longer is by drinking human blood. Because human blood, again, if you take it from the holographic, which we see as red stuff going through veins, you bring it into this metaphysical universe level, it's again information. It's a vibrational state. And by consuming human blood, it carries the human genetic code, therefore, metaphysical universe, vibrational code, and it allows them to stay in this reality for longer. And so this is one reason, there will be others, but this is one reason why, where you follow these bloodlines through, etc., you eventually hit things like pedophilia, and you hit Satanism, human sacrifice. Human sacrifice to who? The gods, the reptilian gods who feed off that energy of terror and fear, etc., which a satanic human sacrifice systematically builds up in the way it's done. Another thing is that within visible light, within our frequency range, whatever you want to call it, electromagnetic spectrum, when these entities are within that reality, they eat humans like we eat cattle and sheep and animals. And this is, again, a theme going right back in the ancient world of the reptilians eating humans, sacrifices to the gods and all the rest of it. But when they're outside of this reality, in their own vibrational reality, they are feeding off our energy. They're vampiring off our energetic state. Now, if I am going to vampire an energy source, that energy source must be within the frequency range that I can connect with. If it's radio 1 and I'm radio 2, I ain't going to vampire that. I have to make that connection. And so what they've done is structure society to keep humanity. This is not the only reason they've done this. They've done it to keep us in the moon matrix frequency range, which operates for the same reason within this same frequency range I'm talking about. They have structured society to generate maximum fear, maximum stress, maximum frustration, maximum anger, maximum conflict. Because that low vibrational energy and wars, like world wars and stuff like that, and 9/11s, they generate enormous amounts of human low vibrational emotional energy. And they feed off this stuff. And then that power, that sustenance is then recycled back in the control system. But the reason that when I've investigated almost any, not every one, but almost any of these major Illuminati names, it's led eventually to Satanism, and invariably it's led to pedophilia. Why? Because again, this energetic vampiring. What these pedophiles are, indeed what these elite pedophiles are, like Father George Bush, people I've been naming him for years, and Ted Heath, the former Prime Minister of Britain, and endless bloody others, appear on CNN and BBC News every day, by the way. We're going to have some real shocks when these names come out, and they're going to. The reason is that they're possessed entities. And in the general population, where people do not have famous names but are pedophiles, the same principle applies. You've got the human level, the hybrid, and they're having sex with a child. Invariably, it's anal sex, even if it's a girl. Again, a common theme. And what is that doing? They're connecting with the child in the area of the base chakra, the base vortex point of the human energy field. While they're having sex with the child, the possessing entity, just outside of human sight, is drawing that energy out from the child. And there is something for these reptilians about energy before puberty, a child's energy before puberty. Because as we all know, when you reach puberty, there is a dramatic chemical change that takes place. From their point of view, this has an effect on the energy field of the child that they'd rather not have. It's not as pure from their point of view. And when you have this ancient theme, Bill, of sacrifices to the gods of young virgins is just code for children. They were sacrificing children. And because of this pre-puberty energy. And so there is a very clear explanation, once you take this picture on, why so many of the elite people in the banking system, politics, and all these other elite institutions are both Satanists and pedophiles, or one or the other, usually kind of both if you go deep enough into it. And they are feeding off human energy, particularly feeding off the child's energy. And I read a passage in one of the Carlos Castaneda books, after I'd understood all this, where he's quoting his shaman source. Carlos Castaneda books were in the 60s, and that kind of period, when he was writing about the teachings of someone called Don Juan Matos, a Central American shaman. Some people say Don Juan didn't exist. I tell you what, if he didn't exist, well, you know, Castaneda was a bloody genius, and because what he put in his mouth was unbelievably accurate. And Don Juan Matters talks about the predators who came from the distance of the cosmos to take over humanity. And he talks about how they took over the mind of humanity. And a direct quote, they gave us their mind. I say that's how they did it. That's how they've done it. That's how they're doing it. And he also talked about the fact that these predators targeted the pure energy field of children, and they fed off it, so that if you saw the child in its full energetic magnificence, it was a bright, shining, vibrating field of awareness. What he said was, if you saw the child as it entered adulthood, it would be a tiny, tiny energy field with virtually no luminosity. And as he put it, just enough to live, but no more. And this is what they're doing. And all these different facets we've talked about today, they all fit. It's a picture. Is there more to know? Are you bloody kidding? My God, there's a lot more to know. And I'm not saying that I'm describing everything that there is to know. Absolutely not. The rabbit hole goes so deep. But what we're beginning to do is get the structure within which it works. And when you're putting a jigsaw puzzle together, I find anyway, not that I've done one for ages, but when you get the frame of the picture in place, all those bits with the straight edges, then you start to see much easier where the other pieces go. And of course, the more pieces go in, you start to know where this piece goes, because now you've got a much better idea of the picture, and that's where we're moving now. But my goodness me, we've got some shocks and surprises to come, well and over above what I've been already talking about today.